Like other big cities in the world, we have many foreigners in Tokyo. We are meeting various countries' people daily, and we should have learned English properly. But do we seem friendly to them? Why don't we talk to them with a little more courage? It makes them a lot happier.
I was on time to meet Ikuko at the Central East Gate of Shinjuku Station, but the problem was that I couldn't find the Central East Gate of Shinjuku Station. It was my first year living in Tokyo, and I got lost every time I went somewhere new. Every time. I reached an area of Shinjuku Station that I thought might be the Central East Gate, but there are no signs I could see to confirm this. There are many signs and posters, but it's all in kanji, so it makes no sense to me. For 5 minutes, I spun around in a constant circle, trying to determine which direction to go, but I couldn't make a decision. I would almost walk in one direction, but then quickly change my mind and spin around the other way. I started to panic a little, and sweat started dripping down my face. This is what happens when you start to panic. My Japanese language skills were at a very beginner level, and I had no idea how to ask for help. So I kind of gave up and just started watching the nicely dressed Japanese people walk by me. But then suddenly a Japanese man who had just walked by stopped. He turned around and walked back to me and asked,
"Do you need help?"
In the many months I had lived in Tokyo, no one had ever stopped and asked me this question. Sure, whenever I asked someone for help, the Japanese have been extraordinarily helpful, but no one had ever volunteered to help me. I was both so shocked and happy that I didn't respond to him immediately. All I said was, "Huh?"
"Do you need help?"
I quickly shook off my surprise and said,
Yes, thank you so much.
I was happy that this was happening. I was so happy that a Japanese person asked me if I needed help. So I told him,
I'm looking for the Central East Gate.
Oh, you are standing right in front of it.
I am?
Yeah, it's right here.
Of course I felt a bit embarrassed, but there are no signs that actually said Central East Gate, so I didn't feel that stupid.
"Are you okay?"
Yeah, now I am. I really appreciate you stopping and taking the time to help me.
"That's no problem. Have a good night."
He smiled and started walking away. And then a moment later, Ikuko came, walking out of one of the side tunnels.
Hi! Are you ready?
Yes, let's go.
The most difficult stuff that I met here, living here, is like the language barrier, 100%. They're really kind people, but you kind of really need someone every time to help you out. You know, if you're at a restaurant, you can just ask, what do you recommend? They try to kind of help you. But for example, I've been to the post office. I have to send a parcel back to Italy, and I waste like 1 day of my life there waiting because we cannot really communicate, so they don't really know what I want. I don't really know how to speak with them. At the end we did, but it takes time. That's really frustrating. You waste a lot of time doing something that you are used to do really fast.
A few years ago, I went to New York with my husband. We enjoyed Broadway shows every day. One day, we went to see the musical called Beautiful, the story about Carole King. Because the theater was full, we had to sit separately. I had an aisle seat. My husband sat in the center of the same row. But The people between my husband and I noticed we were a couple and let us sit together. And that made the show all the more enjoyable. It was my 22nd birthday. I was in Sicily, Italy for a swimming competition. I wanted to win a gold medal because it was my birthday. However, I didn't do my best. I finished with a silver medal. Soon after, I cried in the shower room. It was so regretful. I felt so bad. I almost fell down. Help! That's all I could say. The girl next to me noticed and ran out with only towel. She still stayed there until someone came, wore the towel. I burst in tears for her kindness.
I worked on an American movie called Silence, directed by Martin Scorsese. It was shot in Taiwan. So there were American, Taiwanese, and Japanese crew members and actors. I made some friends, but if I spoke better English, I could have had much stronger relationships. So that's why I started learning English again. I'm still a beginner, but I'm doing my best because, communication can connect the world.
Ten years ago, I performed my English solo performance in London. It's kind of a low years story. In the latter part of that story, Japanese folk song, which we call anchor song, began to start. Ame ame fure fure moto fure, like that. And suddenly, I started to dance with that song unconsciously. British audience shouldn't know that song, but they seemed to enjoy it very much. Later, I performed that story several times in Britain. Oh, I always got big laughter. So I found music can go over beyond borders more easily than words.
When I stayed in Australia, my boyfriend worked at the petrol station in the Gold Coast. One day, I went to see him by myself on foot. But I had never worked there before. I only had a handmade map, so I got lost soon. As I looked around and looked at the map again and again, an old woman asked me, "May I help you?" So I explained about myself, my situation, and she said, "Follow me." We together worked for an hour. I was very happy. Now, I can't remember what we talked about, but I'll never forget her beautiful smile.
About 10 years ago, I produced a play about a tunnel between Japan and Korea with Korean actors. They stayed, rehearsed, and performed for months here in Japan at this theater. Eventually, we could communicate without a translator and teach a local kids song to each other. Through this experience, we finally found out our differences again. But it made us get closer, I think. What if we really built a tunnel
I hope it comes true.
English is very important as a global communication tool. To communicate with strangers, it requires tolerance. The spirit of accepting them is the basics for peace. But now, me first is becoming the first principle. We can see the people who discriminate or exclude other people from other races and different opinions. This behavior is spreading throughout the world like COVID-19. On the other hand, there are many people like us who are eager to comprehend and promote friendships with strangers. We really want to build good and respectable relationships soon, and we believe just simple words and actions can make a difference to our planet. Although it may be difficult for the language to go beyond nations, there is no border for being considerate. We actors, musicians, and artists are going to keep saying this all over the world. And we are looking forward to seeing you somewhere in time. Let's root for ourselves, shall we?
Let's go. これを送ってあげてください。